Ever wondered how a society keeps it together when everything seems to be falling apart? Way back, hundreds of years before the Common Era, ancient China was facing a total collapse. And right out of that crisis, two huge competing ideas popped up that would go on to shape a nation for thousands of years. I mean, just try to picture it, a world of constant war, where alliances just shifted like sand, and trust was something you couldn't really afford. It was a time of serious anxiety and disruption, a time that was practically begging for some new answers. And all that chaos boiled down to this one huge, fundamental question that pretty much everyone had to ask themselves. In a world that is this broken, what's the right way to even live? So, to really get the solutions, you first have to understand just how bad the problem was. We're talking about the Warring States period. It was a nearly 200-year-long stretch from 403 to 221 BC, and believe me, it was every bit as chaotic as it sounds. See, the old dynasty had completely lost its grip. Local lords started calling themselves kings and were just constantly fighting each other for land and power. The whole social order was crumbling, and that left this massive void, this hunger for ideas that could bring back some stability and give life some meaning again. All right, so the first big answer comes from a guy who thought, hey, the solution isn't to run away from the world, it's to fix it. His whole thing was about creating order, about looking outward to rebuild society from the ground up. And that guy was Confucius. Now, he wasn't some kind of prophet or a king. Nope. He was a teacher, and his argument was that you don't win peace on a battlefield. You build it through moral character and a really clear, practical code for how we're supposed to treat each other. His vision was, simple, but also really deep. If people could just learn to act right and respect their roles, the family unit would be strong. And if the families are strong, then the whole state finds its balance. See? It all starts with the individual. So, Confucius basically laid out a roadmap for society, and it was built on these 5 key relationships. As you can see, most of them are hierarchical, and each role has specific duties. It's a two-way street, right? The person with more authority has a duty of care and goodness, while the other person has a duty of obedience and respect. This was literally the blueprint for social order. And connecting all of this right at the very core is this super simple but powerful idea of reciprocity. It's basically his version of the golden rule. It's the ethical thread that's meant to run through all 5 of those relationships, making sure that duty is always balanced with a little bit of empathy. So to make all this work, Confucius said a person, especially a leader, had to really work on these key virtues. First up is Ren, which is all about compassion and respect. Then you've got Li, which is politeness, rituals, just doing things the right way. Then Di, that's moral authority, leading by example, not just by force. And finally, Wen, having an appreciation for culture and the arts, because that's what makes life beautiful. Okay, but at the exact same time, a totally different idea was brewing. If Confucius said the solution was to look outward to society, this new philosophy said, nope, the answer is to look away from society and turn inward towards nature. And that brings us to Taoism. The founder is said to be this figure called Laozi, which means the old master. And the Taoist take on all this was sharp. They looked at all those Confucian rules and rituals and ambitions and basically said, you guys, that's not the solution, that's the problem. All that striving just creates struggle where there should be simplicity. For Taoist, the answer wasn't rules. It was aligning yourself with the Tao. So what is the Tao? Well, it's not a god you pray to. Think of it more like the universe's natural, effortless current. It's the flow of existence itself, impersonal, eternal, and you can't really even describe it with words. The best way to think about it is water. Water doesn't fight. It just flows around whatever's in its way. It's soft, it yields, but over time, it can carve a canyon through solid rock. That's the Taoist path, to be powerful but without all the struggle. And this all leads to a really cool concept called wu-wei. Now, people sometimes translate that as non-action, but hold on, it's not about being lazy and doing nothing. It means acting so spontaneously, so in tune with the moment, that it feels totally effortless, like an expert musician just playing, not thinking. And oh yeah, this philosophy can get really deep, almost mystical. The great Taoist sage Chuang Tzu told this famous story about his dream to make us question our own reality. I mean, who are we really? Are we this person we think we are? Or are we just, a part of some big cosmic dream? Kind of makes you think, right? So Okay, we've got two completely different answers for how to live in a messed up world. One is all about perfecting society, the other is all about freeing yourself. So let's just put them right next to each other and see. The real difference, it all comes down to their end goal. For Confucians, the good life is about fulfilling your duties to society and being part of a harmonious community. But for Taoists, the good life is about shedding all those social duties and just living in tune with your own true nature. And when you lay it all out like this, you can really see just how different they are. Confucianism is focused on the community, guided by social rituals. Taoism, it's all about the individual, guided by the flow of nature. One sees government as, a necessary tool for good. The other sees it as an unnatural thing that just gets in the way. But here is what is so fascinating about this whole story. Instead of one philosophy crushing the other one, Chinese culture found a way to absorb them both. They didn't see them as enemies. They saw them as two sides of the same coin, two parts of a whole. And you know what? The yin-yang symbol is the perfect way to picture this. You can think of Confucianism as the yang side. It's active, it's social, it's structured. And Taoism is the yin side, receptive, personal, spontaneous. You really need both to have balance. And this is pretty much how it worked in China for centuries. A person could be, say, a very proper Confucian official in their public life, following all the rules, honoring their boss, but then in their private life, they could be a Taoist poet, just chilling out, seeking simplicity, nature, and some inner peace. And that kind of brings it all back to us, doesn't it? Even now, we're all navigating that same tension, between our social duties and our personal need for freedom, between having structure and just going with the flow. So take a second and think about it. Which path are you walking today?